Stan Gibilisco here, proprietor and operator of amateur radio station W1GV Whiskey 1, Good Vibrations. I'm going to give you another childhood memory of electronics, not specifically related to ham radio at all, but it was around the 3rd or the 4th grade, so I would have been 9 or 10 years old. Before I got my ham license. I'm not even sure I was much into shortwave listening at that age. Hadn't gotten the walkie-talkies yet. But I had a friend, local in Rochester, named Dave. And we occasionally got together at his house, and somehow or another he got a hold of old vacuum tubes, probably out of old television sets. Many of which were no longer functional, but who knows? After we were finished with them, they definitely were no longer functional, because his bedroom on the 2nd story was high enough above his driveway, above the driveway of his house, so that when we dropped those tubes from that window, they would explode, or rather implode, being vacuum tubes, and we used to get some thrill out of occasionally popping one of those tubes. I'm not really sure how we went about cleaning up the mess. We probably left that up to our mothers. Hopefully nobody went, I don't remember anybody getting hurt going barefoot on those sidewalks or anything, but for some reason just the idea of hearing those things pop was some kind of a thrill to us sadistic little electronics wizards. We never had the nerve to do it with a picture tube. I don't know if we would have, if we could have. But if there were some stone canyons up further north in Rochester, and maybe we might have tried it with in one of those canyons with a picture tube. But for some reason, we just never had the nerve to get that extreme. That wasn't electronics in any real sense of the word, unless you want to call destroying electronic components, quote, electronics, unquote. Maybe perverted American child electronics. Well, anyway, if that's the worst thing that anybody ever did with electronic devices, I guess we were angels. Just brings back some memories. Later on, when I was a technician at one of the radio companies I worked for, and this was actually in my 20s, one of the technicians on the staff had a vacuum tube in a noose hung from the ceiling. He was an all solid state fellow and thought vacuum tubes were not only obsolete, but obscene. I think that's taking it too far. Those were just ordinary, like the same little vacuum tubes, like rectifier tubes, old-fashioned vacuum tubes that we dropped as kids to implode. But I wonder if he had dared try that with a tube like a 3CX 1500, 3 Charlie X-ray 1500. I believe that's the component number, also known as an 8877. I think you'll still find them in some ham radio linear amplifiers to this day. But there are still vacuum tubes in use. They have not, by any means, become obsolete. And if anything, some new and fascinating versions of the vacuum tube still have yet to come into existence. Anyway, whatever. If you want to tell me what you think of this kind of stuff, behavior, be my guest, but I'd rather hear about stuff you did that was similarly devilish in its nature when you were a kid. Stangibelisco W1GV signing off, saying 73 and so long, which, even through a vacuum tube, has always, does now, and shall always translate in my native fist to da-da-da-da-da-da.